Hey.
Hey, everybody. Welcome on. Looks like several of you are starting to jump on here. Thank you very much for being here. We'll give everybody just a few moments to join us. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us for this meeting today. Appreciate it very much. Hope you all are doing really well.
A little wet here.
We have a lot of people on the call, so thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Even see some of you have multiple people on the call in the same room, so thank you for doing that. Appreciate that very much. The more people that know what's going on, the better for this event. So thank you so much for being here. Well, I think we're going to get started here. If everybody could do me a favor and mute your microphones, at least until we're ready to take some questions later on. That way there's not feedback and that sort of thing. That would be very, very helpful.
Cool.
And there will be time during our training this morning or this afternoon, whatever time zone you're on, for questions, for answers, that sort of thing. So we hope to get a lot of clarity based on your questions and our conversation for everybody involved in the meeting today. So I hope it'll be beneficial for us all. So let's get started with the word of prayer. And then I'm going to turn things over to Pastor Josh and let him give some remarks. All right. So let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this day. God, thank you so much for being our God, our Father. Thank you so much for a relationship with you through Jesus Christ. And God, thank you for allowing us to serve in your kingdom. God, not one of us is worthy in and of ourselves, but God, you allow us graciously to serve you. And Lord, that's such a wonder. That's such an amazing opportunity. Thank you for it. God, help us never get over the fact that you allow us to serve you in ministry. God, I thank you so much for this opportunity to serve through Idea Night. I pray that you'd help us to be kingdom-minded today, help our meeting to be very profitable for yourself. God, I do pray that you would help us just to have a lot of clarity and understanding. Any questions will be answered. And I pray that we'd be able to reach a lot of new folks and encourage them through the network, through this avenue of Idea Night. And God, we'll give you the glory for everything that you do. And we thank you again for yourself. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Again, if you're just now jumping on, welcome to the Idea Night host training meeting. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for clearing your schedule. Thanks for crossing over time zones and all that kind of thing just to be with us. We really appreciate that because I know it's difficult to coordinate pastoring and ministering in all different areas of the country. So thank you so much for prioritizing this. Pastor Josh, I'm going to turn things over to you and you take it from here.
Thanks, Corey. You've done a great job so far. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's awesome to have you here. Corey Knopf has been such a joy to work with as the engagement director of the Idea Network, which means he's responsible for certain things like Idea Night, encouraging the local engagement of local ministry leaders, where you guys come in. So, man, we are thankful, Corey, for your involvement. And thank you. Oh, I think I hear some feedback. Maybe not everybody is muted out there. We'll give you a minute to mute. All right, fantastic. And a special thank you to Kylie and Jeremy Rands, the two vice presidents of the Idea Network. We're grateful to all the work that you do, not just for this Idea Night, but also for the many events that are upcoming in the months and the years to come. And then thank you to each and every one of you. We do know you're all over the place. We do know you're all over the place, including Josh Williams, who is about to go shopping apparently at Belk's and picking up some new dishware or something. I'm not sure, but his wife is clearly out there, maybe shopping, and he's just waiting. And a special thank you to my A&W Coke Zero, zero sugar. This is fantastic as well. All right. You might be asking the question, what exactly do I need to do to be in preparation for this Idea Night? Okay, so I have some thoughts that I want to share. I'm going to begin by talking about the philosophy and the practicality of Idea Night, what you should expect and why you should expect these things. Corey then is going to be talking about the specifics of getting ready, and then kind of is going to go through what is a typical Idea Night. So we are glad you're here. We know a lot of you are watching this later on by repeat. So let me begin with the philosophy of Idea Night. Idea Network is a network of ministry leaders for the sole purpose of being able to create environments, collaborative environments for the purpose of idea sharing. Collaborative environments that are void of judgment and reprisal based upon just the sharing of concepts. methodological, theological, and philosophical ideas so that we can advance the kingdom of God. And we create those in virtual rooms like this, as well as real world environments, which include idea days, idea summits, which are coming up in January of 23, and then idea nights. We say at Idea Network, Idea Day, no agendas, just ideas. If I'm going to explain the philosophy of Idea Night, I think it's important for me to explain that that is technically not true. There is an agenda. You say, what exactly is the agenda? The deeper agenda of you hosting an Idea Night is pretty simple. There are ministry leaders who are alone. There are ministry leaders in your community, in your neighborhoods, across the street and across town, who are deeply in need of relationship. They're deeply in need of friendship. They're deeply in need of knowing that they have not been called of God alone in their city, in their state, in their community. The agenda specifically of Idea Night is to reach out to local ministry leaders and bring them in to relationship with other ministry leaders so that we can encourage them. The encouragement will then decrease the attrition rate we're seeing in local ministries on a continual basis. The relationships and the friendships that can be built will allow them to continue another year, another 2 years, another 5 years, another 10 years in ministry. What's the point of church revitalization and church planting if we're continually shutting churches because we can't keep ministry leaders engaged in the ministry? And how do we continue to keep ministry leaders engaged in the ministry if they feel like Elijah out there on their own? So Idea Night is saying, hey, Elijah, did you know we have 400 guys in a cave that meet and share ideas? Now, the reason why this is important, the reason why we don't say come to Idea Night because you need friends is because that will never work when it comes to pastors. The reason we don't go out and say, here's the campaign, we want to tell you out there, you're lonely. And because you're lonely, you're going to commit adultery or you're going to kill yourself or you're going to quit ministry, is because that's not what pastors think they need. What pastors think they need is a fresh idea. What pastors think they need is, you're pretty good at assimilation. What's your assimilation path? Hey, you did the youth program that was really, really interesting. How do I get better at that? Hey, you did a kids program where 5,000 kids from the neighborhood showed up to get Easter eggs. Can you tell me how? They think they need that fresh idea. What they really need is long-term personal relationships and friendships among ministry collaborative friends. So Idea Night is for men and women like you who understand, I know what these ministry leaders need. They need community among ministry leaders. But how do I get them to have community? The answer is you offer them ideas. Come to Idea Night. Why? Well, because we're going to talk about just some fresh ideas. What do you mean fresh ideas? We're going to talk about youth ministry ideas or assimilation ideas or evangelistic ideas or church planting ideas or church revitalization ideas. And the typical pastor gets a text message like that. And they're like, oh yeah, I definitely need fresh ideas. I should come. And they come to get ideas. And what they walk away with is life-giving friendships and relationships. Have I just given away the secret sauce? Have I just pulled back the curtain on what Idea Day actually is? It's about building ministry leaders. And as ministry leaders are built, they'll build ministries. So understanding that helps me explain to you a few ideas as it relates to promoting your specific locale. So let's go ahead and move away from philosophy of Idea Night to promotion of your specific Idea Night in your location. Right now on the call, there are 34 ministry leaders, and many locations, there are multiple of you. Overall, at the end, there's going to be over 50 locations across the country. So as we do that, how do I assure Josh that my location in Indianapolis, my location in Duluth, my location in Jacksonville is actually going to have ministry leaders show up like this? That's what we want to help you with at this time. One of the big mistakes that leaders have made in doing Idea Nights over the last few years is they assume that we can just establish a location for Idea Night, and we'll promote it on the Idea Network website, and 40 people from the Idea Network will show up at your location. It's not how it works. A couple of you guys have tried that and you're like, yeah, that didn't work too well. Or a couple of people have, and it doesn't work. Here's why. Though there are nearly 2,500 ministry leaders part of the Idea Network, it's absolutely impossible to just say, hey, there's an Idea Network event, show up, for people to show up, no matter how many are in the region. The same way, you don't just put a sign out on the side of the road saying, hey, we have a church here. And people are like, church, oh my goodness. And you're like batting people out. There's a wait list to get inside your church on Sunday. The reason is because it takes more than just putting a sign out there saying, hey, there's a church here. Same it is with Idea Night. So what exactly do I do? Where do I start? Here's where you start when it comes to promoting an Idea Night. Number one, you write out a list. You get an old notebook with a pen, or some of you got to get on your iPhone and type it out there. But you begin just by writing out the list. I mean, like literally right now, when I say, who is the one pastor within 25 miles that should come to your Idea Night? Who is it? Who's that name that comes to mind? Who's the second pastor that you know within 25 miles that should show up at your Idea Night? Who is it? Who's the third? Who's the fourth? When you begin to spend, and this is literally what I'm asking you to do, I want you to spend a little time with God, just you and him, and say, God, who in my community needs help? Pastors, ministry leaders in my community that need help. And what I do is I literally take out their names. Sometimes they're names of my best friends, like Aaron Flanagan, who pastors over at Oasis Church and Oasis Baptist Church, and my dad and my brother, and they immediately come to mind. And then there are certain names like a Jeremy Bosma, who is the pastor of the AOG church down the road. I don't really know real well, but I want to get to know, and I want to encourage him and be a ministry to him and get to know him and his life and ministry. And so now I'm putting names on there that I'm like, but I don't know them. That's kind of weird. And they're kind of outside my denominational circle. But God is encouraging me to not necessarily do partnering ministry with them, to church plant and all these things, but just to encourage one another, share ideas. And I start making that list. And before I know it, if I just give God 20 minutes of quiet alone time asking the same question, God, who do you want me to invite to this? Before I know it, there's 20, 25 names on a list. Depending on your community and your personality, that list may be easy to come or difficult to come based on how many people minister within your community. But can I encourage you to begin by just writing a list? And don't just write a list from memory, write a list from God. Talk to the Lord. Now, some of you might be like my buddy Dennis Fountain out there, and the closest, there's like 4 or 5 pastors, and they're all 150 miles away. Awesome, fantastic. Who are those people within that 150-mile radius, a 200-mile radius? Don't just think in terms of your denominational network or your circle or camp, right? Think in terms of who are your servants in this community, and who are my brothers and sisters? Who do you want me to bring? So write a list. Next thought, make the text message. I didn't say text them. I said, make the text message, write the text message, write it yourself. You see? Write it out. What exactly are you going to text these people? Now, there's a different text that I'm going to text out to Aaron Flanagan, my pal, or my dad, and say, hey, come to my thing. Because basically I can be like, you better show up to my thing. You're my friends. That's easy, right? What is the text message that I'm going to put to Jeremy Bosma? What is the text message I'm going to put to Hayden Ratner at Walk Church? What is the text message I'm going to put to Paul and to Andy and to Vance? So what does that text message look like? Write it out. Think about it. Pray over it. It could be as simple as, hey man, how are you doing? I haven't talked to you for a while. I'd love to get together sometime over coffee. And if you become really organic about it, you're going to maybe realize that the first text message you send them might have nothing to do with Idea Night. This is why, by the way, Idea Night's not for months from now, but we're talking about it in May. Because for some of these people, to get them to show up months from now in August and to open up their relational conversation with you and ideas, you may have to start building that relationship in the month of May, in the month of June. Hey man, let's just go out for coffee. And so you're making that text message, you're developing that text message so that you can build the relationship in order to leverage the relationship to bring them into a closer relationship with you and with the other ministry leaders. So in turn, by the time the year is done, you have helped establish a stronger network of brothers and sisters in ministry in your local area. So make the text message, write the text. The next thought I have under here is meet the new guy. There are two types of new guys that you should be thinking through. The first new guy is the new guy who just became a pastor in your community. Over the last 12 months, you heard about him, whatever it is. You're like, oh yeah, that guy. That guy's a new guy. Do you remember being the new kid in school? Do you remember being the new person at church? Do you remember being the new pastor in the community? How weird is it? Guys, do you remember being the new pastor in the community? Like, that's intimidating, deeply intimidating. What do you do with that? I remember there was a new pastor that came to town one year, and he asked to meet with me. He asked to meet with me and about 3 other pastors in my southwest part of Las Vegas. Interdenominational pastors. One was this, one was that, one was the other. And I'm like, okay, I'll meet with you. So we went to the Starbucks, and he came in, and I didn't know what this guy, everybody assumes everybody's got an agenda. I'm sure everybody's got an agenda. And this guy sat down with us, and we had a cup of coffee, and he looked at us. He was young. He was about 10 years younger than I was at the time. He's probably about 28. I was probably about 38. And he looked up, and we said, so man, glad to meet you. What's up? And he, with honesty and integrity, you're going to love this, Cox. He said to me, pastors, I believe God is sending me to start a church in this community, but it's within 5 miles of each of your locations. And before I start this church, I want to get your permission and blessing upon our church plant. And I'm like, what? You're doing what? That's not how this works. Like, you're supposed to go meet with our people and try to convince them to come to your church, But he was getting the blessing of that was weird, stupid weird, odd. I've never seen it. And I don't know, maybe deeply New Testament. And it was like in that moment that I realized, here's this new guy intimidated by all these developed pastors. By the way, this guy, he planted a church. I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 years ago. The church has like 600 people in it, meeting at a school right now. He and I are not the same page theologically on every issue, but I'll tell you this, that man loves Jesus, and he is reaching a lot of unsaved people like never before. And it's amazing to me how even as a new person, he showed confidence to reach out to community pastors and show honor and respect. Here's my saying. Some of you have been in the same location for 5 or 10 years. You are not the new guy. There are new guys. They're scared. They're intimidated. They don't know what to do. Can you reach out to them? There's the new guy that's new to the area, but there's also, number 2, the new guy that is new to you. Meaning there is a pastor, a ministry leader in your community that you've never met, but they pastor 4, 5, 10 minutes from you. Here's my challenge to you. Meet them. Like, go for a cup of coffee. I'm not sure we agree. Of course you don't. You're not talking about planting churches together. You're not talking about supporting the same missionary in a lot of these cases. Idea Night is, for Idea Network, the most broad community we can develop, because you're purely coming in to develop ministerial friendships in a local setting for the purpose of sharing ideas on which we can all benefit. We're not talking about denominational lines here. We're talking about ministerial friendships. Even the most separated ones that I've ever come across in ministry will say, I highly disagree with you on everything, but I'll have a cup of coffee with you. Idea Night is the time to have a cup of coffee with those guys. Bring them in. So you see the heart behind us. Meet the new guy. Last thought I wanted to share about philosophy and the practicalities of filling up your location. Last thought. Constant contact. The biggest mistake that I've made in ministry, and the biggest mistake some of you will make, is we'll cobble together a list of 10 pastors. We'll text them a very awkward text message we haven't thought through. I'm hosting a pastor's fellowship. Come and hear me preach. Send. and we're like, I don't know why didn't people show up. It's not going to work. So once you develop like that beginning relationship, then when you invite them, a lot of times what'll happen is they'll be like, yeah, that sounds good, I'll come. Awesome, follow up. Just like you do with church people, whenever you're trying to get people to visit your church, follow up, and then follow up again. And the next week, follow up. 3 days before, follow up. The night before, you should be texting everybody, hey man, I can't wait for tomorrow. Oh man, it's all set up. Let me show you a picture of the location. It's constant contact. It's very similar to how Corey and I have reached out to you guys. We reached out and been like, man, we got this awesome thing, idea night. We need a location in the area, which we did, by the way. Thank you very much. And then we started contacting you like 12 times to the point where you're like, Corey's got to stop texting me. It's amazing how much the consistency of constant contact actually does genuinely, truly work. Not only in local church ministry, in Idea Network, but when it comes to building that specific location and Idea Night. It'll be an amazing event. If God brings 4 or 5 ministry leaders to your event, awesome. That's what we're wanting. We really are. It could be some of your locations will have 20, 25. I mean, look, not all of us are in Chicago, like Tommy, where Tommy's going to fill up 25, 40. I think he had like 40 some people last year, right? Some of us are going to be in a location where maybe 4 or 5. But the point is that you've put in the work to say, I can fill up this place. And these are the ideas of how to do it. And but not just the how to do it, the why to do it. The why is people need relationships and friendships and encouragement. But if you tell them, come to my thing so we can be friends, that's too awkward for pastors. They won't bite. If you say to them, we want to share ideas about evangelism. We want to share ideas about how to get more teenagers. Our culture is falling apart. Somebody's got to reach the children. Well, everybody agrees with that. Cool. Let's talk about how to reach the children. Then they come, and what they get is relationships, friendships. And the big idea, as Steve Miller said years and years ago, what's the big idea? The connection of the pastors is the big idea. That's what we're looking for in this ministerial association. So this is what I was opening with, philosophy and practicality. I'm going to go to Q&A for a second. We haven't talked about the practical of how to make it work. We're going to go to that with Corey in a moment, but based upon philosophy and based upon the practicality of filling it up, are there any questions that you might have for me? Any hands raised, and I'll go to you. Okay, all right. Well, there may be
I
after
do have a
Corey
question.
speaks.
I have a question.
Yeah, come.
Would we be able to get access to any, like, say, North Carolina, to like people that have come to an Idea Network event from North Carolina that we can reach out to? Because anyway, I can have a private conversation with you later, but this state for some reason is not the most Idea Network like gung ho for some reason. I don't really know, but if there's people that have gone to previous events, maybe one down in Georgia or whatever, you know what I mean? It'd be nice to at least have some sort of list to start from.
Absolutely. So we have a database of everybody who's come to an event in the past, and we take all of that information and sell it to as many marketers as possible. So we have all, I'm kidding, but of course we can let you know within your specific radius, those individuals, so you can reach out and invite them specifically to that location. We've realized at Idea Network that to rely solely upon social media as our way of letting people know of things or asking people to do things, it's the same as putting it in your bulletin. So we can put it out there, hey, we have one in North Carolina, but unless we give you the information and you personally reach out, it's much more beneficial that way. So yeah, we can absolutely make sure that happens. Kylie, where exactly can they receive that information from, or would they receive that from a Corey or from a Courtney, or how exactly would they access?
Yeah, yeah. Corey is the leader of Idea Night this year, but we do have all of the attendance for each site over the last 3 years. So depending on if there was a site each year over the last 3 years, we would have 3 years worth of attendees that we could get to you. But we can definitely get that to you through our team, and we'll communicate details when you reach out.
And we will access the database specifically. Corey, if we can access the database and look specifically at state lists and then pass on those state lists to the individuals, that'd be great. Good. Any other question? Josh, does that answer your question?
Where do we reach out to because I've been communicating via Facebook, but do you have email or something like that we can contact through?
Yes, I'll go ahead and give Kylie and Corey, if you guys could both share your email addresses so that they can reach out directly to, I think this is, like Kylie said, this is Corey's engagement. So let's go ahead and Corey, go ahead and give your email.
Have my cell phone number because Josh and I have been texting. You can do Facebook Messenger. The best way for me to track and keep track of every communication is email. And I'm going to drop it right in the comments right now. It's engagement@ideanetwork.church. So I'll put that in right now.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate that. Sorry I was interrupted. My daughter needed to buy 80 Robux from Roblox. 99 cents. So priorities, people. All right.
Philip Jones
next
has a
question.
Pastor Josh.
Philip.
My question was very similar to Josh to Josh's question about people in our area, but it also related to like how many other churches are hosting, like in Southern California. So that way we're not kind of competing for attendees.
Great question on that. So there are two aspects. Number one, we don't want you competing for attendees. What we've noticed in the past is we specifically did not have a location within 150 miles of another location, something like that. Then we realized that the network continues to grow. And so we actually have some locations that are closer to others because the pastor is really networked strongly with a completely different group of people.
Okay.
And so because of that, there might be a pastor over here has 20 individuals within the SBC network, and they're all coming. And there's somebody who's kind of an independent Baptist background, and there's a guy over here who is non-denom, and he's got these other people coming. Or even within independent Baptist, different segments that are like, oh, I'm going to go to my guy over here. So we've noticed that it's not about location, proximity, as much as it is about population and network of that pastor. But if you do have a specific question as it relates to that, Corey will be able to say, okay, within your region, there is this guy and this guy. Are you guys crossing over? In fact, I've already noticed that Corey has already, with some of you guys, said, oh, my pal and this guy, we were looking at you guys approached both of us about this area, but we actually have the same network. Can we do it together? And there are, I think, about 4 or 5, Corey, let me know, that are actually combining locations, which is a really smart thing to do as well. If again you guys are friends and you can do that together. Yeah, good question, Philip. Any other questions as it relates to philosophy or filling it up and reaching out to fill it up before we get into the practicalities? Any other questions that I might be able to answer?
Josh, this is Tim in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Should we focus more on pastors and staff or church volunteers?
Great question, Tim. First of all, I would say pastors and staff. That's our wheelhouse when it comes to Idea Network events, and specifically Idea Night, because the purpose is to develop a local community of friends in ministry. Now, with that being said, there will be a few deacons that I invite to mine because I want them to see some things. I want them to hear some things. I want them to participate in some things. So I would be really intentional about who and specific about who I invite to that. But your location is going to be your location. We've had a couple, Tim, who have said, you know what, for my Idea Night, what I'm going to do is I've got some issues with my deacons and leadership. So I'm just going to do up my Idea Night, and it's just going to be my people. And it's been amazing. Like, they had a friend pastor and a friend pastor come, but really 20 people there, like their leadership, and they wanted to address these specific issues within that. They used it as a large staff meeting even. And if any of you want to choose to do that, it's not why we do Idea Night, but obviously you're free in your location to do what you want. You're just going to have denominational leadership show up, knocking at your door, demanding answers. That's all. That's all. I'm kidding. Very good question. There again are 2 types of people that you're going to be reaching out to, and I tried to highlight this. The first one are Idea Network people. And so we want to give you, who are those people? A lot of you know who those people are. Who are those people in your area? But the second one is really the purpose. And that is who is not part of the Idea Network. And it's not about connecting them to the Idea Network. This is utterly important. It's about connecting them to you. I want Dennis Wilkening to use Idea Night as an excuse to shepherd the shepherds in his community. So now Dennis doesn't have to be like, hey, how can I help pastors? Because I feel like I'm the person that should help pastors. No, he can say, I've got this thing. It's called Idea Night. We're going to talk about spiritual health. I'm the ministry leader. We're going to talk about evangelism ideas. Will you come? And that excuse puts Dennis in a position now where he can genuinely shepherd shepherds in his community, in his local community. And so don't simply rely upon the network side of who are these pastors. That's good. But what's great is us shepherding people who are out there that are lonely and need friends. Good. Any other questions or thoughts based on, my time is up. Philosophy or practically filling up? That was my 30 minutes. Any last questions before we go to Corey? All right, if you have more after Corey's part of the presentation, we'll jump into it. Corey.
All right, thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. And like Josh said, if you have any questions, if there's anything that I can help you with, please don't hesitate at all to text, call, email, Facebook message, whatever is best for you. I'll do my very, very best to get your questions answered as quickly as possible. I appreciate y'all being very gracious and patient with me as well. You know, this is my first time running this. Obviously, I've got a great support system in Kylie and Josh and Jeremy, and I appreciate their help. But I'm learning this a little bit, just like you all are. Some of you are brand new to hosting, so thank you so much, and I appreciate your gracious spirit. Y'all have been really encouraging to work with, and even some of you pastors that have been teaming up together. We've got 3, 4, 5-way texts going on. It's been really cool to watch some of you just interact with each other and talk about, oh, no, it's okay, I'll do this, and you do that, and if you do this, I'll support you. It's really neat, and I love that spirit about this network. I love that teamwork, camaraderie type of thing. So y'all have already encouraged me, and I appreciate that. I'm going to talk a little bit about just the environment and the actual night, what it can look like, and then after that, Kylie's going to get into kind of the nitty-gritty details, all the fun stuff there. So first thing I want to discuss is the environment. When you're hosting your Idea Night, what's the environment? We want it to feel like a Sunday morning. Now, not Sunday morning in the fact of it's got to be a certain way or a certain dress or something like that, but you know what your Sunday mornings are like. If you get up on Sunday mornings, you are usually charged up, you're ready to go, you're there early, you're adjusting thermostats, you're turning on lights, you're vacuuming. Just all kinds of stuff goes into a Sunday morning because you're very excited about it. There's a lot going on. So we want you to treat it like a Sunday morning, everything being fresh and clean. Get there early, unlock all your doors, turn your lights on, set your thermostats, set out signs if you need to, turn on screens, have music playing throughout your lobby or in your auditorium or wherever you're going to meet. Do all that kind of stuff ahead of time. What we don't want is for people to be ready to come into your event, to your location, and setup happening. We really want you to be set up ahead of time so that really you're not focused on that stuff. You're focused on meeting people. You're focused on connecting with people, introducing them, showing them around, networking them together with other people. Like Josh said, as the host of a site, really your job is to help people meet people. You are a facilitator. And so we really don't want you running around at the last minute having to tweak a bunch of things. Get that stuff set early in advance and then spend your time pouring into people. I love the opportunity that you have to invest in ministry leaders around you. So really capitalize on that because they're coming to your location. I don't know how often that happens. Maybe for some of you, you're a lot more intentional about that than others. But it's probably not super common that you have a bunch of ministry leaders coming to your site, to your location, to your campus, where you get to pour into their lives. So I want you to make the most of that so that you can develop a deep connection, so you can really encourage some people. Basically, I have to say this, summing up environment. whatever you're going to do as far as setup goes, if you're going to have certain signs, you're going to have screens or whatever you're doing as far as setup goes. And Kylie's going to speak more to the specifics of some things we're going to ask for setup, but things that are specific to your site, your location, whatever you're going to do, be intentional about it, be thorough, and do it early. And I think that'll cover pretty much everything as far as setting the environment the right way. Be intentional, be thorough, and do it early. That way it's done and you're ready to be the host of people. Something we talked about in getting ready for this meeting is, what does everyone that's coming need? So everybody that you've invited, everybody that's heard of your site, maybe it's just through social media or through another friend, what do they need? The first thing they need is they need introductions. So they need to be introduced to people. You are the facilitator. You are the networker this night. So it's your job to introduce yourself first and foremost to people if you don't know them or if they don't know you. But it's also your job to introduce people to other people. Most of you are pastors or assistant pastors or something like that. You know that even if you're introverted, which I'll be honest, I'm a little bit of an introvert. I think I'm an extroverted introvert. Anybody else like that? Like, you know how to turn it on? Like, you're fine to sit in your office by yourself, but you know when Sunday morning rolls around, it's game time, game face on, turn it on, go. I'm like that. I am not always people-y, okay? I am not Josh Tice, all right? I am not always smiling. It's not always the most exciting thing in the world. I have to turn it on intentionally. I want you to think like that when it comes to hosting, because even if you're not the people-y person, even if you're the admin person that's really organizing all this stuff behind the scenes, I want you to focus on people, because that is really what the network's for, is connecting people. So you are the networker, you are the facilitator, you are the go-between between people. So even if you are shy, even if it goes against your normal nature, get ready to turn it on for that night and be excited and go out of your way, step out of your comfort zone to make sure that you personally introduce yourself or say hi to every single person there that night. I want you to make that an objective, that no matter who comes through the door, I am personally going to say hi to every single person. Now, some of you might have friends coming, and that's great. But if you're really close with some people and you have some people that you're not as close with, I'd encourage you to treat it like church. Go for the guests. Your best friends, you'll probably see them again. You'll hang out with them again. But go for the people that you don't know as well and try to pull them in. Try to network them with other people. We also want you to make interactions with people. So don't just stop at hi. Try to get to know people. Ask them questions. Get to know their ministry context. See what's going on in their ministry and see how you can be a help and an encouragement to them. Make sure people aren't hanging by themselves. Have you ever been to a conference or an event where nobody talked to you at all? Where you just kind of like sat on the back row? It's discouraging. Nobody wants to do that. By the way, it's a great reminder for me anytime that happens to me, that's probably what guests sometimes feel like at church, and to always be reaching out to them. We don't want anybody to feel like that at Idea Night. We want you to go after people and to not just say hi and shake hands and meet them, but to develop a friendship, to get to know people, make sure people aren't spending time by themselves. And I would say this, during the discussion times, not everybody's going to be comfortable talking. Not everybody's going to want to talk, but try as much as possible as the facilitator of conversations to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to talk. Maybe even pinpoint people that if you've been talking to them ahead of time and they brought up a great thought, that you could re-mention it during the conversational time, during the roundtable times. Any questions so far before we move on to a couple other little things in this area of environment and the evening of Idea Night? Any questions so far? Anybody? Okay. All right, well, we'll keep moving on here. A couple more topics. One is this: how to avoid splitting the room. I think you know what I mean by this. Idea night, we want it to be an enjoyable experience for everyone. And we want it to be something that pulls people together, not that separates and divides people. And just to be real upfront, real blunt, real honest, we all know several divisive issues that you could mention right now that would split an audience, right? There are many, many things that we have opinions on. There are many things that we have different ideas about and different preferences on. Some of them church-related topics, some of them have nothing to do with church, but they can be very dividing. What we don't want to happen is any conversation to divide people. We want conversation to pull people together, to unite, to encourage, to equip, not to separate. And so how do I do that? How do I avoid allowing the conversation to become divisive? I would say this: number one, stay focused on the topics at hand. Whatever that topic is that you're there to talk about that thing. Don't get sidetracked on your own hobby horse. Don't get sidetracked on somebody else's hobby horse. If it does come up, which it may, we're people, we all have ideas of what needs to be talked about. And a lot of times we like to hear ourselves talk. If something does come up that might be a frustration or a problematic topic, don't just ignore people, acknowledge them. Hey, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Hey, can we talk about that maybe afterwards? Or hey, can we talk about that maybe one-on-one and really get back to focusing on what the specific topic is at hand? We don't want you to be rude to anybody, obviously. And we don't want you to be overbearing. But we do want to stay on point. It's a short event. It really is, compared to like an idea day or a summit. It's only a few hours. We only have this little space to really laser focus in on a topic. So we just want to stay really focused on that topic. So stay focused on the topic at hand. I would say this: number two, if you need to, interject if necessary to redirect the conversation. Interject if necessary to redirect the conversation. There may be a time that you have to interject yourself into a conversation just to bring it back to where it needs to be. We want every conversation at Idea Night to be wholesome. First and foremost, we want it to be God honoring. We want it to be pleasing to the Lord. And furthermore, we don't want it to be dividing. We want it to be uplifting and encouraging. So if you need to interject yourself, do so with grace and humility. And by the way, I'm not expecting that you'll have to deal with a lot of problems. I don't think that's the case. But if something like that were to happen, we just want you to be prepared to graciously and lovingly and humbly deal with a situation like that. Any questions along those lines? Or anything that Josh or Kylie, you need to interject here? Okay. All right, let's move on to the last thing I have. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I'll just interject. Over the years, we've very seldom ever had something erupt. Good conversation is obviously the goal. And sometimes good conversation means disagreement. Disagreement's fine on a particular method or how we're going to talk about it. For example, my session is entitled Marathon, basically about long-term soul care for the ministry leader. It's something that everybody that comes to your session in your Idea Night will be able to speak into. How do we care for ourselves spiritually so we can care for the flock spiritually? There are going to be differences of opinions. That actually makes for a good non-boring conversation. But in the years, we've only had one particular time where somebody basically stood up and really made a big issue at a roundtable and kind of embarrassed themselves. What will keep that from happening is, number one, being ready for it, like Corey said, and then diverting it. And also, number two, is by saying ahead of time, downplaying that type of behavior. You've noticed at any idea event you've ever come to, I begin by saying, hey, and there'll be a video where I speak into this that night. I'll say, one of the rules for Idea Night is to just share ideas. And it's okay to share a bad idea. It's not okay to be the guy who overreacts to a bad idea. And we kind of set the table by saying, you don't want to be that guy who loses their cool. And then by doing that, that kind of puts people back and be like, okay, all right, relax, let's have fun here. But if you can continue that spirit, it will calm that.
Absolutely. Thanks for mentioning that. I really appreciate that. If you've been to any IDEA event, which I think everybody here has, that's generally the tone. It's not an argumentative, divisive type thing. There are disagreements, and that's very healthy. You know that as a ministry leader. Disagreements can be very healthy, but there's usually not any kind of negative tone. We just want to be ready for it just in case, and we want to lead through those kinds of situations. The last thing I had to discuss before I turn things over to Kylie is how to moderate. I think the best way to moderate, because you are the moderator, you are the facilitator of this conversation. So we'll have the general session that Josh will do, a video session, and then we'll have a round table, and then we'll have a local speaker and a round table. You are the facilitator of that conversation. You are the moderator. So you're the one that needs to come up with questions. You're the one that needs to be paying attention to the talks to make sure that you know what was discussed and how to address things in it, how to bring up questions. How do you moderate? I think the best way to look at moderating, facilitating these things is look at it like running a small group. Do any of you lead some kind of small group at your church? Okay. Some small groups by nature are just awesome. Like they're super conversational. Other small groups, you have to drag stuff out of people. You ever led one of those before? You have to ask lots of questions. You have to be okay with a little bit of dead space, a little bit of quiet. Now, I'm not saying you just ask one question and you leave it there and say, well, I don't know, if you guys don't answer, this is all you get. I'm not saying to do that. But what I am saying is be comfortable being uncomfortable for a second in asking questions and facilitating a conversation. Take a lot of good notes during the sessions to make sure that you know what's being discussed and have some questions ready, some feeder questions to really get the conversation rolling. If you've ran any kind of small group before or any kind of staff meeting or something like that, where it's a similar scenario, you're the facilitator of the conversation, you know that sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 4 questions to really get the wheels turning before somebody will speak up, before someone will jump into the conversation. So just be prepared for that. Have questions ahead of time, be thinking through those things, and be willing to be uncomfortable a little bit just to allow people time to think and process and come up with an answer. I would say this about being a moderator as well. Be excited. Nobody there is going to be excited if you're not excited. And like I said earlier, some of us, we've got to turn our game face on. We've really got to take a couple espressos that night or something like that. We've really got to get energetic for this thing. Just like running a small group, the tone of it will largely depend on you. You really kind of set the bar for what is the excitement, what is the spirit, what is the tone here. So be excited and help other people be excited. Take notes so you can ask good questions. Be okay with it being quiet. I would end with this. Facilitate conversation. Don't dominate conversation. Does that make sense to everyone? You are there to encourage a conversation, not to take over one. What does that look like? That looks like asking lots of questions, not having the answer to every question, even though you probably do have an answer to every question. But I would encourage you, listen for feedback from other people, get other people talking. Don't just talk yourself, all right? I know we're all ministry leaders and pastors and we love to talk, but this isn't the time for that. This is to get other people talking, especially talking to one another. All right, any questions in my area before I turn things over to Kylie? I see what it says, Sherry Winkler. Can you unmute yourself there?
Okay, so it's actually Matt.
Okay, Matt.
Sherry's my wife.
I figured
But,
so much.
So you said something about having a speaker or something like that. So I'm the facilitator, someone else is the speaker. Could you explain what that person is doing real quickly? Or what, if I heard you right?
Yeah, so there's two main, I guess you could say, sessions. The first one's going to be a video stream that Pastor Josh is going to do. And every site is going to watch that exact same one. And he's going to be speaking about the marathon, soul care. After that, there's going to be a roundtable discussion that you as the facilitator, you as the moderator will be leading that. After that, there will be a local speaker, somebody you invite in your local context. And Kylie will speak to that in just a moment. That will give another session, another topic, and then another roundtable after that where you'll facilitate that conversation as well. Does that make sense? I think I lost you there.
So I'm sorry, say that last part again. So just that final part that you said there.
Yeah, there will be a secondary speaker, a local speaker, local to your context, and then a roundtable afterwards. And then
Okay.
you will be the one that just facilitates the conversation, the questions afterwards.
Okay, got it.
All good.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question. I appreciate that. Any other questions before Tim Newman?
Tim.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of interject here. In our context, I am the local speaker.
Mhm.
So I'm doing a session on developing church policy and specifically the importance of a child protection policy. So
Okay.
mentioning that because he had mentioned a confusion with the two. So
Yes, and a couple of you have actually asked about that. And if you're able to take all that on, kudos to you. Able to run something and speak at it. I know it's a lot of work, but a couple of you have asked about that, and that is totally fine. We encourage that actually, if that's something that you feel led to do. But just don't feel the pressure that you have to be that local speaker as well as host, because I do know a lot of you are doing a lot of work, and I want to make this as advantageous and helpful to you as possible. So great question. Any others before I turn things over to Kylie? Okay, I think that's it. All right. Kylie, you're up.
All right. We are going to get into the nitty-gritty details. So I hope you have your notepad out and are ready to take notes. There's going to be a lot of detailed information. And of course, the neighbor's dog decided to start barking as soon as I unmuted myself. So I hope that's not too much of a distraction. So I'll take all the questions at the end because this is going to be a lot and it'll probably answer a lot of the questions that you might have. So how do you practically run Idea Night? There's a lot of little things that can make or break your event. And we really do consider this your event. Like we're just helping facilitate it, but this is yours. And there's a lot of ways that you can customize your event to fit your local context. So we'll get into those. First thing you should do when you receive your box is read through the box info. There will be a lot of information in there. We pretty much give you a one-stop shop for everything you need for the event. Anything that would not be included in the box would be an extra thing that you could do if you wanted to, but are definitely not required to. And we'll get into those add-ons later. So read through the box info. A lot of you have probably already read through the host expectations form. And that's just letting you know really what is expected of you as the host. And inside the box, and we will have a digital version as well, will be the host assistant guide. And that is really going to be very detailed and is very helpful, kind of a step-by-step of everything you need to know. A lot of what I'm saying now reiterated in print. So first thing, a side note, I guess, the table setup. We call it a round table. It's actually square. So I hope that doesn't throw anybody off. But if you've ever been to an Idea Network event before, more than likely you've attended a round table that is square. So a lot of people ask about the table setup. We do ask that you actually have that set up because it's very much a part of the environment that Corey was kind of referring to earlier. And that kind of sets the tone for an Idea Network event. Sessions, Corey touched on this earlier, and I think Pastor Josh will go a little more into detail of his session as well in a second. He's speaking on marathon sustainable self-care for the ministry leader. And if you've hosted in the past, you know we've had 5 different speakers and you could choose one of the 5. This year we have Pastor Josh, and then we're actually changing up the second part as well, in that the second session is really completely local context. And one thing we've come to understand is naturally across the country, each of our states, even within our own states, we can have kind of different cultures. And definitely across the country, there are different cultures, even within the church, in evangelicalism. And you guys might need to really talk about something that isn't offered in the 5 sessions that we have to offer. And so you would want to choose your local speaker based on what does your community need to hear? What is your community of local ministry leaders dealing with right now? What is a session that would help them? Now, whether you are the local speaker or you are getting a local speaker from your community of ministry leaders, your topic should still be based on what does your local context of ministry leaders need at this time in August. So one note on the local speaker, if it is not yourself, the idea of the local speaker is that they understand your local context. And so if you choose someone who you actually are flying out or has to drive like 8 hours to get there, more than likely they're not a local. And so if they're not a local resident, then they don't necessarily feel the local context of the topic like they should as to fulfill this position. So the point is that they are local, they are in your community within relative driving distance, and they understand the daily struggle. Even, I'm here in Portland, and people who are in Portland know the struggles that Portlanders go through, and people who are even 2 hours south or north. It is a different world, a totally different world. And so to bring someone in, especially depending on the topic, they wouldn't really know what we were talking about if we talk about specific issues that are happening in Portland. So that's the idea, and can kind of give you direction as you are considering who might be your local speaker. We will need to know who that person is. So on your application, ask for certain things. We'll be sending out another upload form for you to upload your local speaker name, a good photo of them, and their topic. And that will help us create your custom social media graphic that will help you promote your site. So that actually leads me to the next point of promotion. So we do create the promotional graphics for you. You do not have to worry about that side of things. We'll take care of it. Again, along with your registration as a host and the host box, you kind of get this one-stop shop of an event, and we provide all of that for you, including promotion. So we will create a custom social media graphic in a Instagram form and a story form, and give that to you so that you can promote your specific site, including all of the customized details that you might have, like childcare. It's up to you whether you have childcare, but we need to communicate that to your delegates. So it would have all that information, but in order for us to do that, we need to know from you, who is that local speaker? Can we have a picture of them? Where are they from? What are they speaking on? So that we can help you communicate to your delegates what to expect for that evening. So we'll need to have that communication back and forth. And this actually leads me to my next point, which is your host assistant. So your host assistant is absolutely required. There have been, I think, one instance ever that we have allowed someone not to have a host assistant. That was Logan Wolf. And it was because he had hosted already multiple times and he has a smaller context. And so he was able to manage the smaller context by himself. For the majority of people, unless it is a very rare exception, we do require you to have a host assistant that is someone other than the host themselves. So, and we do that for a couple of reasons. One is that on the night of, you as the host, your main focus needs to be the delegates, the local people who are coming, doing everything that Corey mentioned earlier, making introductions, helping them interact with other people. That's your focus. There's a lot of little things that happen with events that I'm sure you guys are aware of, because even an average Sunday morning, you deal with this. There's lots of little things that happen on a Sunday morning that as the pastor, you can't necessarily put your mind around every Sunday, because you need to be focused on the people and the message. Same thing here. So you have to have a host assistant, and their responsibilities would be, one, the point of contact. They would be the person responsible for communicating back and forth with Corey and you. They're kind of the middleman. And we generally will CC the host on every email we send out, but it's the host assistant who has the main responsibility of responding and collaborating with us. The other part is on the day of, the host assistant would be in charge of the registration / the registration team, depending on how large your site becomes. So if it's a smaller site, they may be able to manage the registration on their own. If you have maybe 15 people coming, if you get above 30, they might want to get a volunteer to come in and help them with registration so that the line doesn't back up. Also with the setup and making sure all the details are there with the table and promo cards and who's running the sound system and who's pushing play, and all of those details the host assistant would deal with. And you can assign that person. Naturally, you know your staff. So you would assign the host assistant, whether that's someone on your staff or a volunteer who takes on that responsibility to be the host assistant. We will need to know who that is very soon. We'll be communicating with you exactly what date that deadline would be to submit your host assistant. So we talked about registration for the delegates. The host assistant will check in all the delegates. Everyone needs to be registered, whether they have a free ticket or not, or purchasing a ticket at the door, or they got one online on the way there. It doesn't matter. They have to be registered. And so the host assistant will make sure that all of the delegates are registered. This also goes for yourself and for the staff. Even if you have a free ticket, which each host receives 5 free tickets. We used to call these 5 staff tickets, but some of you maybe have smaller staffs, or some of your staff members aren't paid staff, they're volunteer. And so then we had a ton of questions about, well, if they're paid, is it still okay? You get 5 free tickets, give them to whoever you want. Maybe you want to make your staff pay for whatever reason, give them to your local ministry leaders. There are 5 free tickets for you as the host to distribute as you please. And that will help you get your staff registered. And we do need those registrations, even if they are a free ticket. You as the host, naturally, we assume you're going, but we still want you to register with a free ticket so that we have the count. We really, there's a lot of data, that goes into why we do what we do and everything. Just like you want to maybe have an attendance on Sunday morning, we want to have an attendance for Idea Night, whether someone has paid to be there or they have a free ticket. So we do ask that you register. The other thing you'll need to register for is your box. So the host registering for their box is kind of the final confirmation that you are hosting. We do have some stipulations when it comes to cancellation policy and all of that, but upfront, the registration of your box really is important and needs you have to register for your box by June 30th at the absolute latest. And after that, it's really, if we don't have a registration for it, then we start questioning, okay, are they serious about hosting? Did they change their mind? We'll probably start contacting you like, hey, I see you haven't registered for your box. Did something happen? And that really is a pivotal point. So that takes us to cancellation. If something were to come up, something in your church, something in your family, or even you get to a week before the event and your registration is much lower than you were hoping and you're discouraged by that. And you just think, oh, I just want to scrap the whole thing and cancel. There's a few things with this. We understand that when it comes close to the event, if your registration is lower than you were hoping, that it might be discouraging. However, we cannot cancel a month before the event. Actually, I think it was 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the absolute deadline. For example, while you might be hoping for a certain number, and if you don't see that number 2 weeks before, one thing to remember is that the majority, literally 80% of your delegates are going to register in the last 7 days of the event. Every single year this happens, every year without fail. And even with our larger events, with the summit and Idea Day, 60% of the delegates will register within the last month. Even though we'll give discounts, we'll give promotions, we're like, hey, register, it's gonna get more expensive if you don't. It doesn't matter how much dancing we do, people will not register until the last month. And same for Idea Night. 80% of your delegates will register in the last week. So if we cancel 5 days out and there's all these delegates over here who are like, oh, I'm going, and then we cancel, we have to try to communicate and blast it on social media. This site is canceled, and they might not see that memo. They might show up at your church and they're like, where is this event? And then you look bad, we look bad. It's bad for everybody. So an absolute minimum of 2 weeks. And we ask that if that does happen, that it's for a very good reason, not just willy-nilly. So it is a commitment. It is something to put on your calendar. Make sure you can commit to this for our sake, for your sake, for your community's sake. Nobody likes to show up and have unmet expectations. So if we're going to put the expectation out there that there is an event at your site, we want to make sure that that event happens. So there's some fun stuff. I told you this would be a lot. We're almost there. Hold on with me. So some fun stuff. There are some prizes, some hashtag prizes. So we've done this almost every year. Use the hashtag Idea Night 22, hashtag Idea Night 22. A couple of prizes with this. The best photo now this could be from a delegate, this could be from a host, doesn't matter. But the best photo out there using the hashtag Idea Night 22 will receive 50% off a ticket for Idea Summit. And the tickets this year are starting at $200. So that's $100 off just for posting a cool photo. So definitely take advantage of that. Tell your delegates about it. It's just a fun little way. And then it also, because of the hashtag, we get to see everyone's photos across all of the sites across the entire country. And it's a fun way for the different sites to kind of connect with each other, even though they're not in the same place. The second prize is one that we will kind of divulge to you later, but it's going to be one for the host specifically, to receive 2 free tickets to the Idea Summit. And we're still working on a few details when it comes to that prize. So we will email your host assistant. So let's make sure we have their email. And we'll let you know how you can win 2 free tickets to the Idea Summit. 2 free tickets, that's $400 worth of tickets. So we want to make this fun and get you guys connected as you can, even though you're all across the country. All right, last thing, options. So these are just customizations that you can do for your site that you're not required to do, but you can if you want. One is childcare. Now, again, we understand a lot goes into childcare. You have to get volunteers, you have to have a space, you have to have a little game or something, depending on what ages you're doing. It is 100% up to you as the host if you're going to do childcare. You do have to recognize that if you don't offer childcare, there's going to be a natural group of people who cannot attend because they have kids. And this will often eliminate a lot of the women ministry leaders who might attend your site. And so that's just an option you can consider. If you are going to provide childcare, we do need to know. because we need to put that on your custom social media graphic and on your ticket so that when they register for your site, they can see childcare ages 0 to 4 costs $10 or childcare ages 0 to 8 is free. They need to know the ages and if it's charged or not. If it is charged, all of that would go through you. We don't collect any childcare charges or registrations. That would all be done on site at your location, and you would collect those funds, not us. So that is completely on you. We just need to know about it. The other thing is either dinner or snacks. So you can provide as much or as little snacks as you want. We've had we've had different hosts do a full-blown catered meal before their idea night, and the church paid for it, and they communicated to their delegates, you know, we are giving you your delegates information so you can contact them yourself if you'd like as well. But you know, they emailed and said, hey, we're going to have a dinner, it's free or charged, whatever it was, and come at 5 o'clock instead of 6. And so we've had different hosts just have a table with some coffee and maybe some donuts. We've had hosts do nothing, and that's fine. You're not required at all to do that. It's, again, your local context. Maybe, you know, you'd rather have veggies instead of donuts, depending on where you're located or your people. It's up to you. We don't need to know if you're going to do snacks. If you are wanting to do a dinner and you would like us to put it on your ticket, just a little blurb, dinner at 5, no charge, or dinner at 5 or 4:30, you know, $10 a person. You can let us know that and we can add it to your ticket just as a way to help you. We probably won't add that to your custom graphic, but to the ticket itself. Last thing, I know I said the last one was the last thing. This is the last thing. Your custom social media graphics. While we will provide those for you, it really, really does depend on how you promote those graphics for your site specifically to be reached by those graphics. So we'll give you generic graphics that all of you can use, and we'll give you custom graphics that are specific to your site. But while we're promoting Idea Night, we're promoting 50 sites. We're promoting lots of sites. So really, you and your team are going to be the main promoters for your site. And naturally, your Facebook is full of, you know, your friends who are in your community. And so it really does depend on how much you promote your site in order, and you'll see that reflected in your registration. So we will 100%, give you promotion graphics, but it's dependent on how much you use them for them to be very effective. I will note this, if you are an Idea Network member, you have 2 free tickets already. If you are now an Idea Network member and you're hosting, that means you have 7 tickets. So just for clarification there, the Idea Network members across the board, whether they're hosting or not, just as part of their membership, they receive 2 free Idea Night tickets, and they can, you know, use that for themselves. They can share that with a friend, however they want. But if you're hosting and you're a member, now you have 7, and you can use those again how you want. One of those is you. One of them is you as the host. So feel free to take advantage of that and move forward. I will put the link for the box down in the chat. If you want to go ahead now that it's on your mind, just get it out of the way and confirm your site. We'll put that. Actually, Courtney, you're on here, girl. Could you do that for me and put the link for the box ticket in the chat below, and then you guys can go ahead and get that going. Okay, I know that was a lot. Hit me with the questions. I know there's probably quite a few.
I have a couple.
Yes.
My first one is, should we be promoting network membership on our night?
We will provide you. Thank you so much for bringing this up. We will have a video for you. And what to expect with the video is you will push play and sit back and relax. It will be a countdown video for you to, it'll go through Josh's session. It'll have 30 minutes for your roundtable discussion where the host will moderate. It'll have a time for the intermission as well as the sponsorship video. If I can emphasize this very emphatically, as strongly and politely as I can, please, everyone, please hear this. When any host does not show the sponsorship video, you make Idea Network a liar. And that is because there are sponsors when it comes to Idea Night. It's part of what makes Idea Night possible. And so we have told sponsors, and these are sponsors, we specifically make them sponsors, or we only accept sponsors that offer something to the delegates, that have something of a mutual benefit and gives a resource to you guys. And so it is good for everyone that's there. But we've told them all of these sites are going to show your video or have your card on the table or whatever it may be that they've sponsored. If that video is playing in the background while everyone's getting coffee and talking and eating donuts, and that video is just becoming background music, we have become a liar to those sponsors. And I've seen it happen and it makes me so sad. Please, 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 please. I can't be at all your sites. I don't want to be, you don't need a babysitter, but please respect the sponsorship video. It is what makes Idea Night possible. And there is very valuable stuff in there for you, for your delegates. And if for whatever reason you say, I cannot show the sponsorship video, please let us know. And because we'll have to address that individually. So Tim, you asked the question about the video. You will just push play and the video will take you straight through. Was that your exact question? Because now I'm on sponsorships and I'm not.
Yes, that was my exact question.
Perfect. Perfect. Any other questions? I know I went through a lot of information there.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Adam.
If I remember correctly, in the past, we've typically had 2 local speakers. Is this year going to be just 1 local speaker?
So the 2 local speakers were after, so in the past we had 5 sessions. You could choose 2 of the 5. And then from those 2 afterwards, you could either moderate the roundtable yourself, or you could have a local speaker come in and add the local context to that session.
Okay.
So you can still have a local speaker follow Josh and add local context. Because of his topic, it will be very applicable to everyone in the room. But we would probably suggest, if you were to do it a certain way, suggest that Josh shows his video, you as the host moderate the discussion around that video, then have your local speaker after the intermission sponsorship video, your local speaker would then present a full session just like Josh does, and then you as the host would moderate that roundtable. So the host is really the moderator of each topic, and the speakers are Josh and your local guy that you've invited.
Got it.
Anyone else? Go ahead and talk if you have a question, and I can find you later and highlight you. I know we have a lot of returning hosts this year, so a lot of you have done this. You're pros. We've changed a few things on you this year, so we want to make sure we communicate those changes clearly. Any other questions? Okay, I think Corey has a few more things. And I think before we go to Corey, Pastor Josh, do you want to share a bit more detail about your session?
Sure. And this is so that you all can understand how to develop the next session, whether you're speaking or somebody else. We're looking for something that's going to drive as much of the conversation for as many ministry leaders as possible, not necessarily niching in on how to fill up volunteers for nursery ministry. We do a lot of kind of things like that at a summit or an idea day, Since this is all ministry leaders in one location, we want it to be as applicable across the board as much as possible, unless the vast majority in that room are really interested in volunteers for nursery ministry. Like, you have to be asking that question, what do most of these people need to hear? So the lesson I'm bringing to this is marathon, sustainable self-care for ministry leader. And the idea behind it, the big idea that we want to discuss is what does self-care, what does soul care, what does personal spiritual growth look like for the ministry leader, for the pastor, for the evangelist, for the missionary, for the youth pastor, for the children's director? What does that look like for the admin, for the administrative assistant inside a local church setting? And so I talk about 4 aspects. I talk about you need your rest, sabbatical principle, Sabbath principle. You need your friends, which is something I talk about, I know a lot, but do you have people that you can go to help bear the burdens that you have? You need your boundaries. How do you say no? When do you say no? In ministry, it feels like it's always a yes. When do you say no? And you need your mentors. Who are the people surrounding you that can help push you forward whenever things are difficult? My entire talk is less than 14 minutes, right? Because these are supposed to be between 10 and 15-minute talks, and then it goes to the roundtable for a discussion between 40 and 45 minutes. So all of that sets up several questions that I present at the end so that the people can have the conversation. Most of you know how an Idea Network day or summit or night works. So those questions then go to the community. But do you see it? That's the broad conversation, and that's what my session is about, and something that everybody will be able to speak to. There's a few things, and I'll throw it to Cordy. This video that you're watching right now is going to be available so that when you have your assistants that need to see this and who are really running this for you or with you, they can watch this and get their ducks in order. You don't have to just pass on your notes. And the last note that I had is thank you. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for seeing the value and the need of developing local community and local accountability and local friendship and mentorship within your local setting. I know that Idea Network is a national ministerial association. My vision, my hope for the future is that we go from national to regional to local. I really hope, and some of you have heard me speak about this, I really hope that the future of Idea Network is local ministerial associations. Why? Because I think that's where it has the biggest impact. I know that's been true in my life, and I think it's true in a lot of ministry leaders' life. A lot of us feel alone. What we need are friends and mentors and coaches and leaders around us. And so thank you for seeing the vision of that, and I hope it'll bless you and help you do this, as this is, Kylie said, your event, and we want to assist you in this. And we really want you to be promoted in your community to be a shepherd of shepherds. If you need help throughout all of this, again, I'm going to throw it to Cordy. Cordy is the person to reach out to. He is the one who has the best answers. It's like if you were at our church and somebody was like, hey, pastor, when's the next youth event? I'll be like, don't ask me, I'm the wrong guy. I know a lot of you are personal friends of mine, but you also, if you're a personal friend, know that Josh has no answers. So if you reach out to me, I'll be like, I have no idea. The right person that will actually not frustrate you is Corey. And so reach out to Corey in that email address. I know he'll be able to be a help to you in a lot of ways. Corey, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Josh, for reminding us of kind of the why we do this. And it is to network with friends, to bring people together. Thank you, everybody, for your time on here. I know it's been a longer call, so thank you so much for your patience. I want to remind you, if you haven't registered yet as a host, can you please do that? I know there are a few of you on here who are kind of thinking about hosting. You just wanted to see what we had to say. If you're on that fence and you're thinking about hosting, first of all, I really want to encourage you to host. And secondly, if you know you're going to host, go ahead and register on the Idea Network site. I believe it's ideanetwork.church/hosting. That does not cost anything. That just lets us know that you want to host. That's an application type of form that lets us know, gives us details, site locations, that kind of thing. That very much helps us out in planning. So please do that if you haven't done it so far. And then be getting your list together of people that you can contact. Get that file in your office of pastors in my community, guys that I wanna reach out to, but I haven't. and use Idea Night as an excuse to meet them. Invite them to your church, have coffee with them even before Idea Night, hang out with them for a little bit, and then have them come to your event. That would be a great thing. And then I want to encourage you with this. Continue the relationships after Idea Night. Don't use anybody, and don't make anybody feel that way, that, hey, he just got me to an event to pad his numbers for his thing. We never want to send that impression. We want people to believe that we have genuine friendships, because we do. And we really highly value relationships with other ministry leaders. So that is of utmost importance. And like Josh said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get with me. I really appreciate your input and your help and your questions. We cannot pull this off, obviously, without you all. It is not our event. It's actually yours. I'm here to help you, not the other way around. So I kind of work for you in this regard. I want to help your event go really, really well. So if you have anything I can help you with, don't hesitate to reach out in any way, shape, or form. Any questions before I end our session today? All right, I'm not seeing anything. Thank you so much for being here. Josh or Kylie, anything you need to add on before we leave?
I think we're good.
All right, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll have this video available for you soon, and we'll send it back out to you. If you have not registered to host, though, I can't express how important that is. Please do that immediately. All right, thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.